Hello and welcome to week 4 for Education 435. We're going to jump in and take a look at our syllabus to see what we have to be working on for this week, what our learning outcomes are, and what our tasks are going to be. And then we'll navigate through our interactive notebook to be aware of anything that is accountable through that. So here's our learning outcomes for week 4 to reflect on current math instruction in your field experience classrooms, to connect what we're talking about in this course to your field experience classrooms, to grapple with your problem-based task and then differentiate to meet the needs of students in a future classroom, design and implement a small math intervention group based on data, again, working with your intervention group, connecting to several of those overall course learning outcomes, and then research and reflect on meaningful student grouping in math, assessment for a growth mindset in math, and teaching math for a growth mindset. And the way that we'll assess those outcomes and those learning objectives for our week is through a discussion board prompt, your problem-based task, your interactive notebook, your mathematical mindsets, chapters 7, 8, and 9, working in your tutoring groups, and then using your Guiding Children's Learning of Mathematics textbook, using those relevant chapters for what you're teaching in your tutoring group. So let's go back to our weekly content, and we're going to go into week 4. And there again, you'll see all of our learning outcomes that we just discussed. I know this looks a little bit different because this is the instructor view, but you should have everything the same. I'll go ahead and click on the student view, so it should look how you see it. So let's go back into our weekly content. So here's your discussion board post for week 4. Remember that you're going to post and then you reply in order to get your full 10 points. And this is specific to Chapter 8. So in Chapter 8, Jo Boaler, who is the author of Mathematical Mindset, speaks to her advice on grading and growth mindset. And she has these 6 points that she wants to make clear on if we are going to be developing classrooms with a growth mindset for students in particular in math, but in general. These should be common practices for teachers. Always allow students to resubmit work or a test for a higher grade. Share grades with school administrators but not with the students. Use multidimensional grading. Do not use a 100-point scale. Do not include early assignments from math class in the end of class grade. And do not include homework, if given, as any part of grading. So in your post for discussion board, you're going to share which of her advice points you most agree with and why, and which ones you most disagree with and why. You don't necessarily have to speak to each of the 6 points, but just pick 1 or 2 that you most agree with and 1 or 2 that you most disagree with. And share that here, and remember to post with your response and then reply to your peer posts. So the other thing, when we're looking at our syllabus, that takes care of our discussion board. So our problem-based task, interactive notebook, and our mathematical mindsets chapters all take place or are housed in our interactive notebook. So if you remember, all of our interactive notebook materials are updated in that original master copy, which is located in week 1. So if you go to week 1 and continue to navigate into your field experience notebook, if you scroll down into week 4, you will find the work that we need to be doing for this week. So here's your problem-based tasks. And remember, how would you differentiate this for struggling learners, or how would you teach through this, scaffold this? And your directions are simple. Write the number above each visual representation. What do you see? Use colors to show any patterns. And what are your observations? So the biggest thing to take away here is that math learning is best when we have opportunities to make connections between numbers and pictures. So especially in our primary grades, students are better able to grasp math concepts through pictures and representations versus just diving right into the numbers. This is something that allows them to put something more quantifiable to a number and something that they're able to, understand that if I'm looking at the number 5 versus looking at 5 circles, I can understand what 5 means if I see 5 circles or 5 ducks or 5 elephants. And so using pictures to represent numbers allows that connection to happen. Then we have takeaways from your Mathematical Mindsets textbook, so chapters 7 and 8. So chapter 7, implementing math groups must be done with intention to ensure effectiveness, especially when giving complex tasks. There are key points in your chapter on how to strengthen your math groups. Providing open-ended tasks, offering choice of tasks, individualized pathways, multidimensionality, roles, assigning competence, responsibility for peer learning. So I want you to summarize each of those. You can bullet point them, you can list them, however you want to do that. But you're going to summarize those key points from chapter 7. And then for chapter 8, a clear sense of self-awareness is crucial to students' math success. Briefly define the 9 strategies for encouraging self-awareness growth for students. Include any feedback or connections that you hope to use in your future classroom. So there are 9 specific strategies that Joe Bowler references in this chapter for encouraging self-awareness. So I want you, again, you can bullet, you can list, whatever works for you, but put those down and define in your own words so that it's something that you can recall later on as you're working through this. And then finally, your field experience and tutoring project. So this should be well underway at this point, and you should have decided and begun planning and teaching within a particular standard set. And so now that you know what you're going to be teaching, you should be able to refer to your GCLM text and go right to the chapter that speaks to that content and that standard. And then pull some resources there. So what chapter is it that connects to the work that you're doing, and what activities can enhance your group? So that's why you have the textbook, is to be able to utilize it for the lessons and activities and the feedback and information. So use that wisely. Use that to your benefit. So those are some of the things that you have going on in week 4. And looking at your syllabus, you can see that, again, all of these items are taking place in your interactive notebook. So you have your discussion board and your interactive notebook in week 4. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.